Before we begin, thank you very much to DanPro106 for joining my Patreon campaign. Very appreciated. Thank you for helping to keep the channel afloat and the content coming. As long as you guys are supporting, I will keep this daily routine. I will give you something to watch every single day, no matter what. And thanks to you guys and your generosity, I'm going to be doing this for a long time. But thank you guys so much for the support. It means the world to me. Now, I had a Patreon request come in to tier list some Soundwave toys. Now, the Patreon request, I'm trying to hit as much as I can right now, but I'm limited in how much time I have to come and review things here at the shop. So it's a little bit more limited. It's a little bit more, I'm hopping around doing the ones that I can. And right now I can do this one. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one out of the way. And it starts with a familiar friend. It starts with Titanium Soundwave. Very unfortunate. Yeah, I think for the first time, we're going to start in the flea market category. I don't think there's any question on that one. It's a terrible, terrible toy. Always has been, always will be. And not a great representation of Soundwave. It's just not. And, okay, moving on. Let's talk about the Fall of Cybertron Soundwave toy now. The return of the launching gimmick. Launchable disc was cool. Proportionally, this was a little bit weird. He's a pretty heavy Soundwave. That's because of how big the gimmick had to be. I do like the ambition that the toy had in creating this like launching gimmick with his cassettes. Kind of creating like a Bakugan thing when it hits the ground. That's when it unfolds. So that's kind of cool. That was kind of cool. I don't know if it makes it up to premium price, though. There's some really good Soundwaves on the way I have to be conscious of. I'm going to put it high retail right now, and then we're going to see where it goes from there. The Cyberverse Deluxe. I'm not a terrible fan of this mold. The proportions are weird, especially with the small head. It really does not invoke the proportions he had in the show at all. Which is weird, considering you can make up his vehicle however you want, and they still came out like this. Yeah, it has a laser beak, which is nice, but it's just not one that ever impressed me. I'm going to put in bargain bin for now, the high end of the bargain bin. It's not necessarily a bad toy, but it's not a favorable one either. I don't think it did very well. Deluxe Dark of the Moon Soundwave. I actually defend the Dark of the Moon toy line because I felt they benefited a lot from moving all the gimmick into the weapons, and the toys themselves are actually pretty solid as a result. And it helps that his weapon gimmick is probably one of the best in that line. I love how his weapon works. So I'm actually going to put him premium price. This mold got canceled in the US, and it's kind of a shame because it's a fun little Soundwave toy. It's one of those on my kind of like, I shouldn't have gotten rid of that toy kind of list. Somewhere off there someday I might get it again. I don't know. Human Alliance Soundwave. Now, I will be completely honest here. I've never had direct experience with this toy. It's only from videos. It's only from what I have heard. From what I've heard, it was a decent figure. Talk about hefty Soundwaves. This is a big, wide-shouldered Soundwave. Maybe a little bit more so than he was in the movie. But the Human Alliance toys are generally really solid. I'm going to, in a little bit of faith, I'm going to put it in premium from what I've heard, but I'm going to keep it on the low end because I don't know for sure. Personal experience is an important factor after all. War for Cybertron Soundwave. Now we're going to like the same design as Fall of Cybertron, but no launching gimmick. So no minions. And it's more of a more typical standard size and proportion. I don't remember being too big on this toy. I mean, I'm pretty sure I reviewed it at some point. It doesn't strike me as one that set me on fire or anything. It was okay. I do think it's inferior to the Voyager class, not only because of the gimmick, but just because I don't think it's as fun to mess with. So I'm going with that. Oh, the Masterpiece. Oh, gee, I wonder where we're going to put Masterpiece Sound. Yeah, Holy Grail. Phenomenal figure. Works in either your toy accurate or your animation accurate. I think it can pass for both. If you have the American version that came with literally everything, then even better. So, yeah, fantastic figure. Fantastic figure all around. No need to debate that one. I'm including the little Legends and little Cyberverse Legion toys in here too. So get ready to compare like where a Masterpiece goes compared to where a Legion class toy goes. But this one was okay. It's the satellite Soundwave, which we're in a block of satellite sound waves here in this listing. For what it is, I think it's fine. Like, satellite Soundwave didn't have to do a whole lot, so it helps that the tiny size still, it still does what it should do. Not great, but not bad. The next one, the next one's fun. So this is the Revenge of the Fallen Satellite Soundwave Deluxe class, and this one is actually amusing because technically it's a on-screen character, but technically it's not. So they got to do whatever they wanted, and what they did was create this satellite mode, but also create this nice little jet mode too, realizing that a satellite is not a very exciting thing to transform into. As that stands, I do like the toy. I'm going to put it up there in between those two of Cybertron Soundwaves. Because I do think the extra mode definitely helps it out a lot. I think it's a fun little figure. And then we have the modern version. And the modern version goes straight into the flea market. Not as bad as Titanium, but oh boy. Barely any deco to speak of. Barely any play features to speak of. Very bad transformation. Doesn't really look like anything in satellite mode. It's not a very convincing toy. Yeah. Future plastic addict victim, probably. If I can figure out the writing block I have on the current one I'm writing. Oh, am I writing one right now? Oh, ooh. I probably shouldn't have let that slip. Anyway, Bumblebee Movie Soundwave. A lot of people get down on this one because of the vehicle mode. I like the vehicle mode. The Cybertronian hover jet kind of look, I think is a much cooler, I think it's a cool twist. I think it's cooler than just getting yet another starship, yet another space fighter. We've done a million of those. This is an interesting little sci-fi ship, and I like it for that. I like that it invokes the cassette player mode. And yeah, the robot's spot on. The robot's absolutely spot on, and I'm putting them up in premium. I don't care what anyone says. That's a good toy. That is a good toy. All right, Cyberverse Warrior class Soundwave. Oddly enough, I like this one better than I do the Deluxe. Even though the Deluxe is technically superior as a toy, for what these two are, I think the Cyberverse Warrior class does more than I would expect from that line, whereas the Deluxe class does less than I would expect. And that is how you get a Soundwave that goes up here in the retail release category, because I like that toy. Very simple, like the Laserbeak gimmick. Actually very characterful without getting into the way of the engineering for the robot. So like that. Titan Returns Soundwave. I was not a fan of this one. This is a very rare time when Soundwave is a retool of Blaster, not the other way around. No one wanted a Soundwave with a base mode, for starters. I don't think anyone really needed a big Soundwave like this unless you wanted the masterpiece. In size, in gimmick, it just felt very forced. Not a lot of this feels very Soundwave, especially in the tape player mode, which is now a boombox, and a super awkward boombox. Like, more awkward than the Titanium, even. Like, on a technical level, still a decent toy, but not great. Not great. Doesn't really feel Soundwave to me. Robots in Disguise Soundwave. This one is weird. So for starters, it's a warrior class, and it's not a bad warrior class as those go in that time. It's weird because they're trying to force the G1 character back in, while they're also trying to put a different vehicle mode on him, and they're trying to incorporate some of Prime Soundwave too. And I feel like there's too many cooks in the kitchen on this one. So I really feel like the aesthetic could have been improved. I don't think it's quite what it should have been. This one, I'd say like high bargain bin. It wasn't like a thrilling toy. It also doesn't transform very well either. Like the arms are just kind of hanging off the side of the truck. It's not great. Not a good look. Core class Soundwave. This is one of the more recent ones, and for its size and for what it does, like, yeah, it's fine. Okay, the feet stick up in the tape player mode, but the door works, and you do get a cassette to go into it. Doesn't transform, but hey, look how small it is. As a pocket size Soundwave, I think it does more than I expected it to do. Thus, I'm putting it up in the premium. I think it's a really fun little figure. Here's another controversial Soundwave. This is the Siege version. I like the big blockade runner vehicle. Again, the spaceships that Soundwave can turn into, I like that they are unique. You know, it's not the best. It's not the best. It is just kind of a big floating block that is supposed to pass as a spaceship. I understand that. I understand that. I like it more than most, but I will acknowledge it's not the most inventive. I think seeing what they did with the Bumblebee movie design kind of put me in that mindset of, oh, yeah, they could have come up with something much more interesting than what they did here. So I have kind of cooled on this one. I'm not going to bargain bin it, but I think I am going to drop it to the bottom of retail. At least it could do the chest gimmick. But it also is hurt by like the fact that I really don't like how heavy the battle damage deco is on it. I think that subtracts from it. Cybertron Soundwave. Now I had the Japanese version. I had was supposed to be the superior one, but I believe the American one fixed some molding issues that the Japanese version had, because mine didn't really function that well. But overall, it's okay for its time. I do think the transformation is kind of awkward, and I think the execution of the robot mode is not too great. It's a little flimsy. So, especially in the legs. The legs are so thin, and they have a sideways hinge for the transformation, which means kind of floppy in a few directions. I'm not big on this one. I love the look of it, but I'm not big on the execution. I'm going to put it lower end of retail right now. Action Master. This is going to be a weird one, right? So, I think the Action Master works out better. They didn't take many liberties with the design, so as an Action Master, it does work. And I do like Wing Thing as a accessory for him. Now, because Soundwave is already known for animal companions, this is actually the most fit one out of all of the Action Masters, outside of the ones that just had little drone bots helping them out. As it is, I actually quite like this one as an Action Master. It also helps that, he is very boxy, so you can kind of fake a transformation. Okay, his head's sticking out, but hey, whatever. I will put it somewhere in the middle of retail release. For an Action Master, it ain't bad. If you know what you're getting into when you get it, it ain't bad. G1, the very first original Soundwave. Now, keep in mind the era that this toy came out in, and then realize that this is one of the very few that had functioning shoulders and elbows. The only one, I think, that could rotate his head. The legs could actually move forward, all thanks to transformation joints. And then you think of all the little gimmicks they worked in. The cassette gimmick is one of them, but also the battery gimmick. The fact that you could store his weapon away as batteries, I think is a genius addition to the toy. And it's one of the, I think it's the only G1 toy that could actually store its weapon away, now that I think about it. I don't think that has any doubt. That goes to Holy Grail. That's still a really nice toy even today. It's nicer if you have the very first commemorative edition release America did, because that gives you the Sound Blaster chest in a Soundwave toy, meaning it stores both Laserbeak and Ravage at the same time. Love that. Love that. Generation 2 Soundwave. It's a spy changer, or what we would eventually come to call spy changers. It's a very bad representation of Soundwave, isn't it? Isn't it? All of them were. They were just name dumps, right? We acknowledge that all of those little GoBot cars back in the day were just name dumps to keep trademarks alive. For that, I'm not going to put Flea Market, because it's basically what it was supposed to be. But yeah, it's not great. All right, so Legends of Cybertron, Legends class Soundwave. Back when a Legends class wasn't the mini bots that we were getting during Thrilling 30. No. This is when Legends class meant big characters in small size. So Soundwave got one, and his is just as fiddly as the Deluxe, as the Voyager. Now it's a little bit better, just it's sturdier because it's not articulated. But they're much better toys of its size at the time. I'm gonna put it closer to the bargain bin because it does do what it's supposed to do, but it's rough. It's kind of rough. I might. No, I'm flea marketing it. I'm flea marketing executive decisions going in the flea market level. Because now, as the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, even the vehicle mode looked rough. Yeah, there's way better ones. Even in that, that's the first time they did toys that size, and I still in my head I'm like, yeah, there's much better ones at that size. Go get Starscream from that line. That one was nice for its time and size. Music label Soundwave. This one was a working MP3 player in a super primitive version. I think it is very small memory cards it can handle, like 2 or 4 gigabytes at the most. I think it's very small read capacity, but also very primitive. It played the songs in order, and you could skip to the next song, and that's about all you could do. But the fact that it actually worked in a transforming Soundwave meant the world. And for the longest time, this was the only option you had for a articulated deluxe Soundwave. So not only was it technologically impressive, it also actually was a really nice action figure of Soundwave. It was well articulated. It had additional hands you could swap into. It has really good features. I'm putting it in Holy Grail because it's a really nice piece. Gimmick, electronic gimmick aside, it's still a good toy even after that. Machine War Soundwave. I had someone send me this intending for it to be Plastic Addict worthy, but really it's only by comparing it to modern toys does it end up looking bad. Does it look like Soundwave? No. Nothing from Machine Wars looks like the character it's supposed to be. But the toy itself is okay. It's a product of its time. It's a late G1 toy redone with a dark, like mid-90s color scheme. It's okay for what it is. I will say it's not an exciting toy. It's definitely not my favorite, but I would put it top of bargain bin as a result. It's not a Soundwave I would jump to, but, it's not as bad as I think people would make it out to be. Prime Soundwave. Whew. This one's nice. So not only do you have, like, these creepy svelte proportions downright on this toy, it's also a jet figure that gets all of the... I'm sorry, a drone, but you know what I mean. It gets the wings out of the way in a creepy and appropriate way about making them the arms. Also, there's a functioning laser beak gimmick in a deluxe. That's really cool. I think this is a really, really nice, one of the better mainline Prime releases, to the point where I really wish he had a first edition. So yeah, he goes up. Where do you go up? I want to put him pretty high. I want to put him pretty high in the premium. He is a really, really nice one. All right. God, what did we call this one when they brought it over here? So it's the smart tablet Soundwave, but I can't quite remember what we called it upon American release. The one I'm talking about. It's the one that is like a 1-to-1 scale tablet, not functional, but it's completely flat. It's the right size for a tablet, and it still transforms into a 3-dimensional Soundwave. On an engineering level, it's extremely impressive. It's not the best overall looking Soundwave. It's certainly not the best playing Soundwave, but the fact that they pulled it off, I think is worth crediting. But I would stick it somewhere here up in the high retail. Engineering impressive, but not one I would really want to go back to. All right. I put in the smallest transforming transformer. I put in this tiny little Soundwave. Why? Because it is very noteworthy. Not only is it very well done for its size, it's fully functional, it does everything the original Soundwave did. That's the scary thing for how tiny it is. It has a decent range of articulation. It actually has slightly more because it's using ball joints, not hinges. It still has a transforming cassette in Ravage, the literal tiniest of tiniest transformers ever. It fits inside. He can still do the battery compartment thing. That still works, even though he's super tiny. I'm putting him in Holy Grail because he's so good for what he is. He's so good. He's so tiny, but he works so well. And he's perfect for like masterpiece prop replica size. If you need like a Soundwave prop, he actually works well for that too. All right, animated Soundwave. This is our first time we got to see Soundwave take a major departure from his original alt mode, so this was a new territory being ventured. Like aside from the Cybertron, but that's a different, you know what I mean. But it's the first time we saw him as an SUV, which would be one of his common alt mode choices in future iterations. He is nice. He is very nice. He is decently articulated. He is mostly ball joints. So as long as the ball joints stay tight, everything works. They start to loosen up. Okay, he's very top heavy because of his proportions. The fact that Laserbeak is a guitar that can transform into Laserbeak and actually into a guitar he looks like he's holding and playing, super characterful. Super, super good. The toy itself does have a few issues. Like I said, if the joints loosen up, he becomes very unbalanced. Very hard to hold certain poses. There's some limitations to his articulation and a few weirdness. Like his production run in America had like a tacky paint problem where it didn't quite seal to the plastic like it was supposed to. Weirdness. So only for things like that do I bump it down a notch, but I'm putting it top of the premium price. Absolute top of the premium price. Studio Series Deluxe Soundwave, the standard car. This one was okay. I had it because I really liked the Dark of the Moon one so much. I thought, let's try the Studio Series. And the proportions are better. But the toy itself didn't really light me on fire or anything. It just kind of just feels like another Studio Series release. I think it's kind of because the deco's a little bit plain on him. Not that that's not inaccurate, but I don't know. It just didn't quite do it for me. I'd put him like somewhere like middle retail release. That's about as much credit as I'd give that one. It's okay. I find it okay. I was inclined to put Activator Soundwave on here too, because Activator Soundwave is not too bad of a figure himself, but he's a fun little gimmicky toy. I'm learning to appreciate gimmicky toys more. I know, scary. But the articulation for it is very decent. There's not too much weirdness going on with him. Okay, the arms are paper thin. I will give you that. He's a little bit off proportion because of his small stature. But I think as you saw with my electromagnetic review, he works really well as a little toy. I'm not going to put him too high. But I think right there is not a bad spot for him. Actually, I need to put him below that Soundwave. I still like that. I still like that Cyberverse Warrior. All right, Legion class. Legion class Soundwave from Dark of the Moon. Very simplistic. Nothing really to speak of on here. It's just a tiny little version of the Mercedes Soundwave. We're gonna put him right there. I think that works out. And now my image is blocking the lower row, but don't worry, we only have one to go, so then we'll go ahead and reveal it and be done with the list, because the last one is the Netflix Soundwave. Technically a remold of the Siege, but heavily done so, and it's a vast improvement. So this is it, right? This is the pinnacle. This is the modern mainline styled Soundwave that everyone has wanted forever, and it's a shame that it was released in such a limited way. But it does exist, and it is an exceptionally nice toy. Exceptional version of Soundwave. I think it would be second only to the Masterpiece if you're after a Soundwave toy. So that, I think that's an appropriate spot. And I think that is a good place to leave it. Mostly because I've run out of Soundwaves. Obviously, there's tons out there. We could have added in the Construct Bots. We could have added in, Hero Masher. We could have added in a dozen other individual Soundwaves, but I wanted to keep it to a bite-sized chunk. I didn't want to go too far. So this is my list. So let me know in the comments below. I'm sure your favorite Soundwave is in the wrong spot. Feel free to tell me below. And I hope, to the one who requested this, I hope this was satisfying, seeing where all the Soundwaves line up for me personally. So thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.